Hey everybody, first of all let me apologize for the loud babbling gurgling noise. The camera is positioned right next to my garden tank and I don't really have any choice of where to put it, so you're going to hear that loud waterfall filter running behind you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit of work here on my brackish tank. Butterbean has been acting really strange as of late. Last week or so he's been really just kind of staying in his cave. I don't know if he's coming out on camera now, but he's in the back corner just kind of hiding underneath the tank heater. He's been spending a lot of time back there too, and I'm not sure what's going on. I treated the tank recently for cyanobacteria, which is already coming back. I don't think I got it completely out of there when I did my other treatment, because I've got a few spots where the gravel's starting to get those red clumps on it again, so we're going to be doing that in the fairly near future. But today I'm going to get in there and I'm going to work with the lighting. I put some really cheap DIY lighting on here. It's the little strips of LEDs that you can string together and cut to length and all that. I never really got into shooting any more video explaining how I did it or where to buy them or anything, because the end result was that pretty much every one I've made, you know, was decent at best and then quickly went downhill from there. So both tanks that still have them on there look bad, and this is the worst one. So I think maybe this weird yellow dim flickering lighting might be what's making Butterbean so sketched out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch back to the original lighting I had on this tank way back in the day. I'm not real happy about it. It is the big plastic hood type fixtures, and while they're 3 feet wide, you know, they will cover this tank and they'll look appropriate on the tank. The tubes inside are only 24-inch tubes, so I'm basically going to have two 24-inch T8 fluorescent tubes on this tank, which isn't a whole lot, but if you look at what we're dealing with right now, it's probably going to look fantastic by comparison. So give me just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and then we'll have a look at what the tank looks like afterwards. So consider this your before. Alright everybody, there's your after. So I'm not kidding, the moment I got finished and had both the lights on, Butterbean came out of his corner, he started swimming around the tank, he looked perfectly normal. It looked like he was cruising around looking for food, and then when I came over here to start filming, he went right back into his corner, and now he is just zooming up and down, pacing the glass, hiding behind the tank heater back there, and I swear he's doing it on purpose. I've been standing here for 10 minutes probably waiting for him to start swimming around the tank again so I can get him on video, and he's just not going to do it. And I don't have all day, so he's just going to have to be in the back corner there doing his little thing, swimming around for the rest of this video. But the tank looks a lot better. It's hard to imagine that I'm actually happy about the way the tank looks when it's only got those two little T8 tubes over top of it. At one point I had 4 T5 high output 36-inch tubes on there. So it was, you know, 4 3-foot high output T5s on there. 2 of the 4 were 10,000K, so they were really, really I'll say bright white, but I don't mean that in the sense of lumens. I mean that in the sense of the color temperature. It was very, very white light in there, and it really, really lit the tank up nicely and really showed off a lot of the colors in there, but it was so bright. And here we're down to 2 little T8 tubes, and I'm happy with it compared to what we had in there for a few minutes ago. So I guess everything is all relative, you know, depending on what you're comparing it to. So there you go, there's the after of what it looks like. Now, I will say I'm kind of interested to see that there's snails aplenty in the tank. Not only have I noticed that cyanobacteria is coming back, which I suspect had something to do with that very, very poor quality lighting. I will talk more about that. I shot a video about that once, but I will talk more about the relationship between lighting, the color temperature, the color spectrums of lighting, and cyanobacteria growth, because there is a correlation between the quality of your light and whether or not you've got issues with cyanobacteria. So I suspect the really poor quality of light that I was getting from those garbage little low budget, low quality LEDs I had on here was probably really greatly contributing to my cyanobacteria issues. So now we've got 6500K, decent quality tubes on there again. Maybe we'll see if we get a little less vigorous growth of that cyanobacteria. I kind of expect that. But now that the tank's lit up enough for me to see in there, it's interesting to see how many snails are actually just crawling around on the glass. You can see one front and center right here. I don't know whether that's coming out on camera, but there's a little snail on the glass right here. There's a couple, 3, 4, 5 little snails, 6 little snails on the left-hand panel. And now that I'm looking around on the substrate, there's actually quite a few snails too. If you can see this little ghost shrimp right here, that ghost shrimp is actually attacking a snail. And then on this rock right here, the slanted rock, sort of right where the Java fern is sticking out, it looks like a little chunk of gravel or a little pile of gravel. That's one of those little piles of snails. I don't know if you've ever bred snails or not, but they'll just get into a big group and a big pile, a big cluster of snails. And it looks like a conglomerate of little pebbles and pieces of gravel or something. It looks like aggregate or something. That's what that is. So I've got snails sort of aggressively breeding in here. So I guess I can stop throwing snails in the tank every day for Butterbean to eat and let him get caught up on what's already in there. And I'm really finding this fascinating. Again, I don't know if it's coming out on camera. Give me half a second here. Let me get you off the tripod. And if I can see what I'm doing here, there we go. You can see that little shrimp is working on that snail. And then those little bumblebee gobies, they just vanish when they sit down on that gravel. You don't even notice they're in there until they move. And then there you can see those red clumps. That's all that red cyanobacteria coming back. Look at it all. And you can even see a little bit of it growing on the rocks over here. It's kind of in the shadow, but underneath that shadow you can see some redness. So there's Butterbean back in the back corner, still doing his thing. Now his belly's nice and white, so he's apparently not stressed out. I don't know really what he's doing. And I also find it interesting, you see all the snail shells back there, and all of those, the white things are the snail shells, and you can see a bunch more back here. They never used to pile up back there. They would always pile up out front here. He would basically eat them where I dropped them, and then that was the end of it. Now that the lights went weird and he was just more or less spending all of his time hiding back in his cave, it's almost as though he was coming out, grabbing the snails, and then going back into the shelter to eat them. So I really think that weird flickering light, maybe it was flickering in a way that I couldn't tell and he could. I don't know how fish eyes work. And I don't know if they work differently with different species, as I would imagine they do. So maybe he was detecting some kind of flickering, maybe some kind of wavelength of light that was being produced that I couldn't tell. Maybe he just thought that horrible, glowing, yellow, dim, pale light was just awful looking too, and he wanted to stay indoors. I don't know. But he seems to be outdoors now, even though he's still just pacing the glass in that back corner, probably just being contrary because he knows I'm shooting video. Anyway, I'm going to say thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss anything I got coming up. You never know what it's going to be. Don't forget, this one here is my 40-gallon brackish tank. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.